Welcome to Whispers from Within. I'm your host, Katja Aurora, intuitive healer, space holder, and inner wisdom guide, here to share insights from a lifetime of walking between worlds. This is the sacred space where intuition leads, the soul speaks, and ancient wisdom meets everyday life. In each episode, we explore energy, healing, and the human experience, guided by presence, truth, and laughter. Let's listen in and remember who we really are.
I stand in the light of truth and love, whole, sovereign, and free. Only what serves the highest good may enter this space, all else dissolves into light. Every word shared here is carried in clarity, purity, and love. May each listener hear exactly what serves their highest evolution in perfect timing and perfect resonance. This space is sealed, protected, and blessed, and so it is.
Hello, here I am again with another episode, and today I'd like to speak about being with. We have a tendency in society that whenever something is not feeling good, we tend to run away from it. We tend to distract ourselves. We tend to make every possible effort to not have to deal with or be with what doesn't feel good. And so this is also something that I believe in our society is actually wanted because it keeps consumers. It's when you actually learn to be with something that is not feeling great, you're becoming the master of reality in a way. And this is not to say that I've acquired mastery in any level. I just find that it helps me tremendously to be open to whatever shows up and to not run away from it because it is a teacher. And if you look at life that way, in my worldview, and again, you will have your own, please only take whatever is resonating with you and leave the rest. But in my worldview, I know that outside of this body, outside of this 3D reality, I am pure. I'm in an essence. I have everything that I need, and the experience outside of the human body in a different dimension, in a different level of existence, doesn't include or doesn't necessarily have the experience of suffering or of something that doesn't feel good. It usually, the higher expressions of the soul when we're not incarnated on earth are usually, are feeling, in my perception, are feeling a lot lighter, a lot more fluid, a lot more blissful and joyful, and a lot more whole, for the very reason that we remember everything we are. There's no hidden parts to us when we are in the higher realms. However, when we are on earth, we've signed up to this experience with a level of forgetting. And that forgetting is necessary for us to really dive into the experience of being separate from. When we are in the higher realms, we're always connected to everything. We know that we're part of the whole, and we very much feel that way as well. And there's often not even a feeling of individuation or separateness in any way when we are up in the lofty grounds of all that is. But here on earth, the pure experience is built by and from the notion that we are separate from each other. We're separate from source. We're separate from everything else that exists around us. And yet that is just an illusion. But it's so real on this plane that sometimes we forget that, we are really connected to everything else. And so the task in our life, if we wanted this, if we wanted to remember in our lifetime, if we have chosen that path, then it is a constant trying to come back to that remembrance that we are all one, that there is no separation, and we can only do that when we really experience separation first. And it's a privilege, and I don't mean that in don't get offended by this. It's a privilege to have to go through suffering because it is rare in the universe. It is not something that happens everywhere and happens on every planet. It is quite a unique experience, and it requires a certain setup that we find here on Earth, and that is not very common in other places. It is certainly out there, absolutely, but it's quite a unique setup here on Earth. And so suffering is something that can be celebrated. Now, obviously, when you're going through suffering, it is not a great feeling, absolutely not. But it holds so much growth in it. There is a potential of growing through an experience like that that you otherwise wouldn't have. And so the thing I wanted to speak to you about with the being with, I find that very interesting that there's a lot of people that are healers that are trying to help people get away from suffering or away from things they don't like to be with. And there's nothing wrong with that. Again, everybody's on their path and everybody's exactly where they need to be. And also, remembering their own being takes time and an evolution, and there's nothing wrong with it. I'm just saying that when you're coming from a place where you cannot be with certain things in your life that don't feel good, you would automatically then project that on others as well. And so you would have people coming to you if you are a healer or some in some shape or form helping others. You would attract people that also can't be with something, and you would have a need and an urge to rescue them from wherever they are at with that. Because in you have not the capacity to be with something, so then that's projected onto somebody else, and that becomes a really unhealthy sort of thing. But it doesn't mean that that's not meant to be, because sometimes that is a learning that we need to go through, and in that sense, it's also perfectly fine. I'm just wanting to point that out. So when you are a healer, I'm a healer, but that doesn't mean I heal people. What that means really is that I hold space for another person's healing themselves. So I don't do the healing. I help them to remember how to heal themselves. That is my role as a healer. So I don't do the healing. I'm not involved with the healing. I am only holding space and pointing them in the right direction to find the healing within themselves. And that is the most empowering way of doing healing, of facilitating healing. If you're still needing healing yourself, and I'm not saying I'm ready. I have a lot of things that I still need to go through. Absolutely. I don't stop. I excavate as much as I need to at any given point, and I try not to run away from my own evolving. But if you have something that you kind of, yeah, if you have something that you can't be with, and you're holding space for somebody that also doesn't want to be with that, you will try everything to not be with that. So you're avoiding something. And that is a filter that can lead you in a direction that might not be desirable. However, when you practice to sit with something, say for example you are feeling sad, or you're feeling angry, or have some emotion that is socially not as accepted as being, in a good mood, then in order to really acknowledge it and really integrate it in yourself and see what it has come up for in you, because it always has something to show you and to teach you, then sitting with that, not necessarily needing to express it in any way, but sitting with it and giving it some space and exploring what it wants to teach you or why it's there in the first place is something that requires some mastery. It's not running away from, it's not distracting yourself, but actually taking time to sit with the very thing that doesn't feel comfortable. So the healing journey is one where you confront and face that which isn't lovely, that which isn't feeling good. By confronting it, you're changing it. And it's not about the change, it's about seeing what it is, facing it, and seeing what's beneath so that you can learn from it. Because only then has it got a purpose. If you try and distract yourself from it, it will always be there. It will always be in the background. You can't get away from it. If it's there to teach you something, it will not go away until you take the time to sit with it. So why not sit with it straight away, right? So why would you postpone that and keep running away from something, which we all do to a degree with our things in our lives that we don't want to be with? We distract ourselves so many times and it will not stop coming back at you. So when you're distracting yourself all the time, in a quiet moment, it will come back. It will come back to you and it will be right in your face. And so then you have no choice to be with it. So why don't you decide to sit with it in your own time, on your own terms, so that it doesn't come around again when you're wanting to relax and rest? So sitting with something that is not great is only difficult at the beginning. You just need to make that choice to sit with it and sit with it and with open arms, with curiosity, without judgment, because that could be in the way of where this is wanting to take you. So sitting with it, feeling into it, asking it what it wants, asking it why it's there, or feeling into why it's there. So then you're giving it the space that it needs. And usually those states only need your attention. They are there to get your attention. And when you finally, after all the distraction that you've tried before, when you finally sit down and meet it, it's actually not taking long at all. It takes maybe 5 minutes, maybe 10, maybe half an hour, maybe even an hour, but it doesn't take long. It only wants your undivided attention for a little bit of time. And when you give yourself that gift, you might just find the answer to something that you've searched for all your life. So if you're feeling angry, this is another thing that I feel really quite strongly about as well. Anger is a marvelous emotion. It is very productive if you use it in the right way. And it's showing you where you've gone against yourself, where you've allowed something that went against yourself, usually. And when you give it the space to sit with it or to express it, even, and I mean not expressing it in somebody's face, because then that is incurring karma again. You don't want to do that. You want to keep it to yourself or express it in a healthy way, which might be chopping wood. It might be boxing into a cushion. It might be screaming in the forest. or in the car or wherever you can do that. Expressing is healthy, but not in somebody's face, not with another person involved necessarily. You want to do that for yourself, to yourself, with yourself, not with another person involved, because that's not fair on them unless you've decided or you've arranged with somebody else to be that person for them. And in that case, often that's subconscious. If that's the case, then that's okay. That's, it happens. But just know that when you are projecting an emotion or something from inside to another person, it always is a karmic entanglement. There's always something that comes back round again. So it's always better to do it with yourself, to be there for yourself, but give yourself the space and the room to express it in a healthy way. And if it's something other than anger, for example, I mean, anger you can use to mold something, to make some art. You can really use that force that is within you that's wanting to come out and produce something with that. Not that you need to, pay attention to the result, but producing something with it, making something from it is actually quite um, a lovely, a cathartic thing to do. But sitting, for example, with depression, where we are trying to distract ourselves from it, we're trying to take pills, we're trying to watch a movie, we're trying to see friends, we're trying every other thing that would distract us from the actual thing that's happening to make us feel better. And that will never, never get rid of this underlying thing that's there in the first place. The only thing that will is sitting with it, is facing it. And when you do that, there's the key for you to turn this around. And depression is often arriving. And again, I'm not saying this is a blanket statement. We're all different. We're very unique and can be very different for individuals. But often depression is a part of us that we have not allowed to be expressed. It's a suppression of self to a degree, and that might be very subconscious. It might be very much in the back burner somewhere. You wouldn't even know that it was that. But if you have depression, you've certainly suppressed an aspect of yourself that wants to be seen. So sitting with the depression, and what by that I mean as well, it's very important that when you're sitting with that, you're not losing yourself in it. And that's another mastery. So when you're sitting with it, what I mean there is you sit and you observe yourself. So there is still a little difference, a little distance between you, the observer, and the actual aspect of you that is experiencing the emotion or the state of being that you're observing. So there's the aspect of you, say in this example, there's the aspect of you that is depressed, and then there's the observer you that looks at it. And it has to be the two, because otherwise you get lost in the state itself, and then it becomes a downward spiral. So you've lost yourself basically, and that is often where people are at when they are not knowing what to do and they need some help. And this is where the healer can step in and help to show you that you can observe that you don't have to get lost in it. You can observe it, because your observer self is a kind of link to your higher self. It is the soul aspect of you that knows everything, that has the wisdom in itself, even though we sometimes don't know the wisdom consciously, but we do hold the wisdom in ourselves, and it's just a matter of time for it to be unlocked, and you just have to have the keys to unlock it. So we're so much more wise than we think we are, and we just have to have the keys to unlock the wisdom within. So sitting with means being both aspects, being the observer and seeing the part of you that is lost in the minutiae of the thing. And you can look at yourself and see the depressed part, the depressed aspect of yourself, and just watch what happens with that part of you, how it's behaving. What you can really um, be a detective, finding out all the different aspects of it as you're looking at yourself. There, it can be quite an interesting thing to do if you're willing to face that. And more often than not, you would actually find some sort of answer there and find an aspect of you that really needed to be seen, needed to be sat with, right? So, and that then, when you've reached that bit, when you've witnessed yourself in that state and you've given it some attention and some time just to watch it, just to be with it, just not to do anything with it, just to be with it. It's really that simple, just being with it, but being curious about it, not judging it while you're being with it. Then you would find that most of the time, this not nice feeling or state of yours is dissipating. It's changing. It's changing into something else. It's morphing into something else. And that next bit might not be comfortable either, but it's changing. So all it requires is your attention, is your full attention for that moment. And this is how you release it. And then you don't have to carry it around with you. And I don't mean in the slightest that depression is healed that quickly. I don't mean that. There's different aspects in depression, and some really take a long time, take a long journey. But, I've just wanted to give you an example here. It could be another state as well. So some will find that that is helping, that is exactly what is required, because something that knocks on the door in your beingness has always got to say something. It's always there for a reason. It's not there randomly to make you feel bad. That's not its purpose. Its purpose is for you to understand yourself better. And there will be some sort of message in it. And so if you are open to receive that message, and by the way, this is the same with every other thing that happens to us. In my worldview, everything you ever have, any disease, any imbalance, any disharmony in your body, in your physical expression, will always, always, always have a counterpart in your emotional, spiritual, or mental state. It cannot but have that. It is not a standalone physical expression. It doesn't happen. Everything is always a fractal of the whole, and therefore, when you have a physical expression, even if it's just a common cold, there will be an underlying emotional, mental, spiritual state that you have not acknowledged. So the body only ever manifests something when something else has not uh, reached your consciousness, has not been dealt with in your mind and your mental capacity of mulling things over, or organizing it, or integrating it. When something has been left behind and there was a message in there that you needed to get, then the body takes over and it manifests something so that you can. So for me, I just want to give you an example here as well. As a child, I very, very often had tonsillitis. So my tonsils swelling up so that I couldn't go to school, couldn't swallow, couldn't speak sometimes because it's really painful when you have that. And for me, that was an expression that everything was too much for me, and my body stepped in to shield me from having to do things that I didn't want to do. So my body stepped in to shield me in that moment. And I knew that. I was aware of it. And I was happy when the tonsillitis came around. I was happy for my body to step in, because for me it wasn't as nice to set the boundary as a child to say I don't want to do that, the only thing I had to do really was setting boundaries and saying no to things that I didn't want to do, which was really painful to me because I didn't want to offend anybody. I was a pleaser, as many of us are at that age, or as we've learned. So in my childhood, I was pleasing people, and I didn't want to make them feel bad by me saying no to something. So I suppressed my saying no, and my body then created the tonsillitis so that I had some excuse to not do something that I didn't want to do. And that included school sometimes. If there was a test or something that I didn't want to write, my body created tonsillitis. So, um, and I wasn't always aware of that. I had a very early on, I might not have been aware of it, but later on, especially when I was like 14, 15, 15, 17, 16, 17. Around that age, I was very aware that my tonsillitis, and I called it my tonsillitis, was my friend because it always happened when I needed a break, when I needed to be with myself, when I needed to have a time out. And so I know by experience everything I've got, any physical expression, it doesn't matter what it is. If it's a life limiting thing, it doesn't matter what it is, it has an origin in the energy, in your energy bodies, one of them at least. It's always in both places. Our reality is 50% physicality and 50% energy, and it's in the energy as well as in the physicality. If it's a disease, this is the last expression of it. It's the most densest form of that energy that was already there in the energetic body in yourself somewhere. And if you didn't see the message, if you didn't get the memo in the energetic body where it was showing itself, where it was in your face, where it was kind of already knocking on the door, then the body is the one that takes it on for you so that you face it because you have to face it. Some of the things they need to be seen, they need to be gone through. And it doesn't necessarily require you to really be aware of what that thing is. The body will just transmute it through its own process. So if you have that disease, if you go through the cold, if you go through the tonsillitis or whatever else it is, if you just sit it out, you would have processed that in some shape or form. It doesn't always have to be conscious. So you do get better, even if you don't understand that that was what happened there. But if you do understand that that's happening for a reason, you can significantly shorten that disease. So if I get tonsillitis now, I can turn this around within 2 days, 3 days, because I'm conscious of this thing happening, and it doesn't even happen that often now because I'm trying to catch it before it even gets manifest in my body. So that's the way of doing this. And sitting with something will also help you prevent something appearing on the physical level. So I would encourage you, instead of distracting yourself over and over and over again, thinking that you will never be rid of something, to try out to sit with it and see what that does. Because you might just find that by sitting with it, it will actually transform completely, and you will not have that same thing nagging anymore afterwards. It's a way of transforming something. And if you are new to energy and energy work, then it would be advisable to have somebody do this with you, to sit with it with somebody else's guidance so that you can learn how to do this properly and eventually do it by yourself. You can always do anything by yourself, but we're not here to be islands, are we? We're here to help each other. And so taking some guidance and some help from somebody that knows how to do that might be a good option to start off with. But that doesn't mean that you can't do it by yourself. You can absolutely do that by yourself. And in my work, I often I want you to do it by yourself. So I would teach you, if you come to me with that, I would teach you how to do this so that eventually you end up doing it for yourself. Because I don't want I don't want you to be dependent on me to do that. That wouldn't be good. That is a codependency. That's not a good thing. So we want you to be empowered in sitting with something. And so that is usually my goal when I sit with somebody, helping them to do certain things for themselves so that eventually you can be your own guide, so to speak, because you are strong enough to be that. Not in every time, not in every single case. And I am still going through my own things, being held by somebody that I trust as well. I don't do everything that I go through by myself, although I have a large proportion of the things that I'm traversing that I now do by myself, just simply because I've done it a long time and I can do that. But that doesn't mean that I don't want to be held, right? So I really appreciate another person holding my space so that I can really explore what it is that I want to explore. And it really helps when you don't have to then hold space for yourself at the same time. So it's either or. It's a choice, absolutely. And I just want to encourage you to have the courage, because it takes courage to stop and to sit with what doesn't feel good. But I promise you, it won't last long. So there's this facing and sitting with and being in the discomfort might take a little while in the first instance that you're doing it, but it will change, and it might change quicker than you think. So have the courage to sit with something that you really don't like to be with and see how it changes. And it's so worth doing that because you get epiphanies from it. You understand yourself better. You're getting to know yourself in that sense as well. And it is a sort of self-care too. It's all in there. So I leave you with that. Try out being with something that you don't want to be with. And the more you practice that, the more you're not afraid of anything coming your way or anything expressing through you, because you've learned to be with something. And it's beautiful to do that. We don't have these darker states of being. We don't have them where we come from. We don't have them in the source space where we come from. We can only experience that here. So it's a gift. It's something beautiful in its own right, even if it feels uncomfortable. So that's what I mean with when I say there's beauty in suffering, because it's only possible here, right? There's so much more to say about suffering, but we leave it here. We leave it like this for now. And if you have any questions about that, or if you need help with space holding for you to sit with something, please reach out and we can explore that. And until next time, have a good experiment with this if you're going down the route of exploring this. And let me know how you get on. Lots of love. Bye bye. Thank you for joining me on this journey inwards. May the whispers you heard today echo into your daily life, gently guiding, healing, and reminding you of who you truly are. If this episode stirred something in your heart, I invite you to follow, share, or leave a review. It helps the medicine reach those who need it most. And if you feel called to go deeper, connect with me. Until next time, stay rooted, stay open, and keep listening to the whispers from within.